Hello there.
Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, what have we here?
Welcome, Jedi. We've been expecting you.
Knew I could count on you.
Hello.
Welcome to the rebellion.
What fun.
What's up, everyone? Hybrid here, welcoming you to Black Series of Yesteryear. This week we are getting into the 7th wave of the red and black packaging, meaning it is time for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So we are going to talk about figures number 22 through 26 in the red box lineup. This is a wave that, while very cool when it landed, like many of these early red box waves, it was very saturated, a lot of peg warmers. We're going to talk about some figures that we don't hold in very high regard, which is unfortunate because there is some actually pretty okay stuff going on in here. So, that said, just a reminder, this is the series, my retrospective series, where we go back and talk about the Black Series of Yesteryear. I have been a collector of the line since day one. I kind of remember my thoughts on some things from back in the day. I have some stories to share, and ultimately it's just a fun little time to have a little yap sesh. So, the red and black boxes came in cases of 6, and this wave featured one repack, being the revision of Rey, figure number 2, that they had changed out in like the 3rd or 4th wave and added the Skywalker Graflex lightsaber to. There was a whole campaign going on, the Where's Rey hashtag, where the first batch of Force Awakens merchandise didn't heavily feature Rey, and then when she ended up being the main character, there were some complainers online. You know, there was Force Awakens Monopoly that had Finn and Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, you know, and I remember that being one thing in particular. So after that hashtag started going, Hasbro started really spamming us on the Rey repacks, as we've seen the last several of these videos, and yeah, another Rey repack. It sat on the shelves with the other ones, but it was cool to get that lightsaber out there again. Just an accessory that, you know, really should have been somewhere in that first wave. I'd have packed it with Finn just to stick with the trailers, but I digress. So, repacks aside, figure number 22 in the red and black packaging is Sergeant Jyn Erso in her Jedha getup. This is Jyn's primary outfit for the majority of the movie, featuring a removable rubber headscarf. She comes with her pistol that she carries throughout the film, and I always thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity. They never gave her baton. None of the Jyn Erso figures came with a baton, and you know, again, she used that baton just as much as she used that pistol, which wasn't a whole ton. But this figure, I remember finding it at Walmart early. I found this wave at a Walmart early, and of course everything was register locked. You couldn't buy it, so I remember just being really excited to see these, and you know, Jyn obviously had caught my eye because the trailers were keeping it no secret that she was going to be a heavy focus in the movie, and a character I still do like to date. Much like Rey, we're going to see in the upcoming videos, they repack the snot out of Jyn Erso, and that is why she's ultimately such a worthless figure today. But she's not a bad figure in the grand scheme of things. This is that red and black box pre-photoreal face technology, so the likeness is a little bit buttery, you know, it's not quite there. But the figure itself objectively does a good job of recreating her outfit. She is proportioned rather small next to other characters because Felicity Jones is not a very tall lady. They did just a great job recreating, like, everything Butterface. There is a later on photoreal revision, which is also very cheap and easy to get, but it is the definitive one in my opinion. Figure number 23 in the red and black box is Captain Cassian Andor in his Edu outfit. So this Cassian is wearing that blue parka jacket with the brown tan puffy pants. He has a removable like hat, you know, the wool lined hat with the goggles on top. Later on, we got a revision of Cassian from a figure 3 pack in the Rogue One like a repack wave that the Galaxy packaging did, and this Cassian has never been redone. This Cassian, again, has a very, very soft likeness. It is not the best Diego Luna. But again, as far as what Black Series were at the time, you could look at it and kind of be like, yeah, okay, that's Cassian, sure. He came with a Rebel like blaster rifle and then his pistol that holstered nicely at his hip. And I remember a lot of people were using this as a base body to make custom Hoth Rebel soldiers. That was really cool too. It's an outfit that he wears not for a huge amount of the movie, but it was a pretty good scene, the scene that he had it in. So I think that this is a figure I don't think it would sell well if they archived it. But, it's one that I would buy if they redid the face. I should honestly just buy the redo Cassian and do a head swap on this one. But anyway, onwards onto figure number 24 in the red and black line, being K2SO. This is a figure that they more or less nailed right off rip, without the requirement of a likeness, being a awkward droid character. K2SO is done very, very well. K2SO is very tall, he has very spindly limbs, and then his torso is a little bit bulky, and it ultimately made for a top-heavy figure, but it was accurate to what you see in the movie, so it was really hard to criticize it, Ultimately, he has some subtle weathering. I think they did a good job in the adaptation here. It's a sculpt that they still use today, and I never pose it thinking, wow, it'd be better if they changed this. Like, it'd be nice if they gave him a stand, because these K2 droids are known to topple. But yeah, objectively, he's fine. This was a really good sculpt from this era in the Black Series. Up next, figure number 25 in the red and black line is the Imperial Death Trooper. These guys were the toy sellers for Rogue One. All the trailers heavily featured them. They were on the promo material that they would hang up over the toy aisle and Target. The Death Trooper was the black, like, super stormtrooper that this movie was presenting. And then they really didn't do a whole ton in the movie. They looked cool. They definitely were elite. But they didn't get, like, any super scene-stealing scenes. But this figure is a little bit rough. It objectively looking at it looks like a Death Trooper, and at the time I was very happy with it. Since this figure has come out, they have really evolved the technology of the armored trooper figures and really given them some better articulation. And it's really given me the ultimate conclusion on this guy that he's too skinny. He's very lanky. I'm not really a big fan of that. It's just there's some awkward proportions. He articulates okay for a figure from 2016. But this is a figure I would honestly, especially considering their continued appearances in other media, you've got Andor, Rebels, they appear in a zombie version in Ahsoka. I really would like to see a redo up to modern standards on this guy, and bulk him up just a smidge. They weren't like buff troopers or anything. They were generally lean. This guy just seems a little bit too skinny, and I'd really like to see a redo that just fixes his proportions. But he was cool at the time. And then figure number 26, they are going back to The Force Awakens. Can't leave that movie alone in this figure line. We are getting Kylo Ren in an unmasked appearance. So Kylo Ren Unmasked was the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and he came with Vader's helmet and a First Order banner, and then a Kylo Ren figure unmasked. And here he is, stripped of those extra accessories in the main line, and it is that same Kylo Ren figure we had, minus the helmet. He has a new lightsaber where the blades aren't all connected. They are separate, and then they just give you a hilt to put on his belt. You can do one or the other. That's something that they do with a lot of 3.75s. I kind of like the removable blade gimmick, but Kylo Ren's lightsaber makes that difficult, I do concede, and I feel like for his lightsaber in particular, this makes sense. This was not the worst pre-photoreal likeness. This, like, for a painted face, it's like, I kind of see it. It's not horrible. I believe that Hasbro absolutely would kill a Adam Driver likeness with modern photoreal, and this base body is not the worst. This Kylo body has aged fairly well compared to anything from this era, so I would really love to see this guy get archived. It would be insane getting a photoreal Adam Driver. It would fix so many Kylo Ren figures from back in the day. But yeah, this ultimately was after a little bit of a break from the Force Awakens being so heavy in the line. It was nice to add something to it. It was nice that the Rogue One series didn't just totally ignore that movie that just came out last year and not fill in a couple of missing spaces, you know. So ultimately, I think it was an all right wave. This wave of 6 was honestly a pretty decent assortment. Again, we didn't really need the Rey again. All of them ended up peg warming to some degree. The Death Troopers sold out, you know, being by virtue of being a stormtrooper. I'll tell you a little story. And it's going to make me sound really crummy, but I ask that you recall that I was 18 at the time and doing the best I could. I found this wave at my local Walmart, and I had heard that some Walmarts had them register locked and some Walmarts didn't, and the ones that I really wanted were K2SO and the Death Trooper. So knowing that, I took Cassian to the checkout, and they scanned it and they took it from me, and they talked to me like I went in the back room and stole it or whatever, even though it was hanging on the pegs. And after they gave me a verbal chiding, you know, they took it away and said they couldn't sell it to me. And it was only like 2 or 3 days before the Force Friday event. You know, it wasn't like anything that insane, but I knew that on the Force Friday I was going to be working and I wasn't going to get off work till 9 at night. And I didn't know like how early, you know, the stuff would get like register unlocked. So I went back and I took the Death Trooper and the K2SO off the peg and I hid them behind some puzzles. I was that guy. I hid them. And now I came right back on Friday and bought them, and the other figures from the wave were still on the shelf. So I don't think I really denied anyone the opportunity, but I wanted to be sure. And yeah, so that was a story of a much younger hybrid collecting. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but at least I didn't leave them there. I came back. So, but yeah, that was a really good wave, and one that I do remember somewhat fondly. A lot of these figures we're going to talk about again in the next couple of videos because they are a little bit repack heavy with these Rogue One figures, which is why so many of them have 0 aftermarket value. So keep an eye out. We are going to really, really hammer our point home on these. May the Force be with you. I will catch you on the next one. Until then, bye.